Okay, so let us look into the interaction between layers in the OSI model. So in between the two layers, you can see that there is an interface here. So 7-6 refers to the layers over here. So in between this seventh layer and the sixth layer, there is an interface. So what is the purpose of the interface? Okay, so the purpose of the interface is to transmit information between the two layers. Okay, so the communication is established between the two layers. Each interface defines the information and services a layer must provide for the layer above it. So this interface will give the services that the below layer will be providing to the upper layer. So in between two layers, you can see there will be an interface. Like there is an interface between this 6 and 5. So that is called as 6-5 interface and all that. So you can see that over here. And so you can see that the communication is happening between A and B, passing through some intermediate nodes over here. And this passage between the intermediate nodes will happen in between these three layers, which is network, data link, and the physical layers. So the intermediate nodes will be there in while data is transmitted between these three layers. Okay, right. And the rest of the communication is peer-to-peer communication, meaning that the transport layer of the device A will be communicating with the transport layer of the device B. And in the same way, the session layer of the sender will communicate with the session layer of the receiver. So this seventh, sixth, and fifth and fourth is called as peer-to-peer protocol or communication. And here you can see that there will be in between these three layers communication, there will be intermediate node communication. So these are all the points I have discussed in the morning class, and now let us see the communication. So say for example, a message is sent from device A to device B. So message may pass through many intermediate nodes over here. These intermediate nodes involve only the first three layers of the OSI. So as I already told you, what are the first three layers of the OSI? The physical, data link, and the network layer. So only there, like you will be having the intermediate nodes involved between the transmission. And at the higher layer communication must move down through the layers on the device A. So the communication, okay, the data that is produced by the device A will move down the layers over here. I will give you an example, please do not worry, but as of now just understand the concept theory part, and then I'll show you, I'll practically tell you what happens at each and every layer once the message is produced at the device A. So what happens, the data that is transmitted by device A will move down the layers over here. And so at the physical layer, there will be direct communication between the devices happen. A sends a stream of bits to device B, and then B backs up through the layer. So what happens at the layer at the OSI layers over here at the device A, the message is transmitted from top to down like this. And upon receiving, okay, so this is the physical communication between these two devices. Once the message reaches this physical layer of the destination, then the message moves up, okay. So it moves up in this particular direction, and finally it is reached to the destination's device. Okay, right. So each layer in the sending device adds its own information to the message it receives from the layer just above it and passes the whole packet to the layer below it. Okay. At layer 1, the whole package is converted to a form that can be transmitted to the receiving device. So this is what will happen at the sender side. And at the receiving machine, what happens is the message is unwrapped, okay, layer by layer, with each process receiving and removing the data meant for it. For example, you can see a diagram over here. So let me show you a diagram here. So this is the diagram which just explained what I have said. Like each and every layer is adding a header over here. H represents a header. So this is the data that is produced by the device A. Say for example, this is device A that we are talking about, and this is device B that we are talking about. And A has produced a message. Say for example, he or whatever. Okay, hi or how are you or whatever. So there is a message that is produced by device A, and this is called as D7. This hi message is called as D7. And to this particular D7, this is at the application layer. So at the application layer, it will add a header. Okay, so to represent that, it is a header added at the application layer, which is the 7th layer of the OSI. H7 is used here to represent that header that is added at the application layer. So this entire thing will be considered to be data now, and this is called as D6. Okay, so D6 is the message that it has received from the layer above it. So it do not know that where the header starts and where the data starts and all that. It will take the entire packet that it has received from the application layer to be D6. And to D6, so this is layer data at the layer 6, which is the presentation layer. So the presentation layer will add another header to it, which is H6. Okay, so which is used for communication. And then this entire packet is taken to the next layer below it, which is the session layer. And that's why the data here is represented as D5, and it adds its own header to it, which is H5. And then this entire thing is transmitted to the layer below it. That's why I said like the communication happens from top to bottom. Okay, you can see that the data is transmitting from top to the application layer to the physical layer like this. And H5 is added, which is the session layer header. And the entire data is sent to the next layer below it, which is the transport layer. And the transport layer will add its own header to it, which is represented as H4. And the entire data is again sent to the layer below it, which is the D3, which is the network layer. And network layer will add its own header to it, and the data has come here. Now see here in the next layer below it, which is the data link layer, a trailer is also added. Okay, so this is not called as tail, it is called as trailer. Okay, header and trailer. Okay, so the data which is added at the end is called as the trailer. So a header and a trailer both are added at the data link layer to the message that it has received from the top layer. And now what happens is this data is now a bit of stream of bits, and for this stream of bits again a header is added, which is H1 for suppose. And then this stream of bits are transmitted through a transmission medium. This transmission medium can be the copper wire cabling, or it can be fiber optics, or it can be air or anything, and the data is transmitted through the transmission medium, and then it reaches to the destination node. And after reaching the destination node, what happens? This is put in the dotted line. Why it is put in the dotted line is this will check, this header is used for certain checking purposes. And after ensuring that this message is for this particular device or whatever, so that communication happens and this is dropped. Okay, so this header is dropped and then the data is sent. The rest of the packet is sent to the layer above it. So you can see in the destination, the data will move from the bottom to the up layer. So again in the data link layer, the header is dropped and the rest of the trailer is also dropped, and the rest of the data is sent to the layer above it. And what is the layer above it? Which is the network layer. In the network layer, it again drops this header and transmits it to the next layer above it. So which is the transport layer. And here again this header is dropped, and this is what is called as encapsulation and decapsulation. Okay, encapsulation is adding the headers and decapsulation is removing the headers at its peer layer in the destination. So D5 is here, and then what it will do is it will drop this one which is at the session layer, the header is dropped, and then at the presentation layer the H6 is dropped, and at the application layer H7 is dropped. And D7 is the data that is intended for the destination where this is given to it. Okay, so this process is called as encapsulation and decapsulation of the data, an exchange using the OSI model. So that's what I have discussed over here. Okay, right. I also told you what is an interface. So let us now look into the three groups. Okay, so the 7 layers of the OSR are divided into 3 groups. The first layer is the network support layer, and the second one is user support layer, and the third one is the transport layer. So the topmost 3 layers, okay, so which is like application and presentation and the session layers, are called as the high levels, okay, or the top layers. And then the next two layers. Okay, so what are the next two layers, which are transport and network layer? Transport and network layers are considered to be the middle layers, and the bottom layers are low level layers are called as the data link and the physical layer. So this is another top layers, or the high layers are the application, presentation and session layers. Then the middle layers are the transport and the network layers, and the bottommost layers are the data link and the physical layers. Okay, so which again I have put it in a diagram over here for you. So you can see that application, presentation and session, all these three are considered the higher layers. Okay, the transport and the network layer are considered to be the middle layers, and then the data link and the physical layer are considered to be the lower layers. So you can say like the middle layers are used for so and so purposes and all that. So here you can see that the application to application communication happens here in the presentation. I'll tell you the functionalities of each and every layer. Here in the transport layer, it is a process to process communication. And then in the network layer, you can find the routers. Okay, so routers are, as I already told you, routers are used to connect between the LANs. So you have a LAN and a LAN, and which are connected in the internet, and to send and receive the data from this particular LAN 1 to LAN 2, for example, you need a router, because as I told you, routers are more intelligent devices which can actually process the IP addresses. So network layer is used for that. Okay, so that's why there is a router over here, and data link layer wherein you just have a switch, and in the physical layer, like you have the hub or the repeater. Okay, so these are the networking devices that will be there in each and every layer. So getting back to here, so coming to the layers, now what are network support layers? Okay, so the network support layers are the layers 1, 2 and 3. What are the 1, 2, 3? They are the physical layer, data link layer and the network layer. These three are considered to be the network support layers. Okay, so these are very important for your MCQs. Please concentrate and listen to the class. And also for your university examination, like what are the various layers and explain them in detail is an essay question. So next they deal with the physical aspects of moving data from one device to another. So they deal with the electrical specifications, like 5 volts represent 1 and 0 volts represent 0 and all that, any type of electrical specifications and physical connections and physical addressing, like the MAC address communications and transport timing and reliability. All these are the functionalities of the network support layers, and these involves the physical, data link and the network layer. So the physical layer is mostly hardware. Okay, so it's a copper cabling, or it's a fiber optics or anything like that, and the data is exchanged in data is changed into an electromagnetic signal, and it is transmitted along the physical link. Okay, so the other layers are the combination of the hardware and software, but the physical layer is mostly hardware. Okay, so 80% of the physical layer will be hardware. And the next group is the user support group. So user support layers are the 5, 6, 7, which are the session, presentation and application, the higher layers, and they provide interoperability among related software systems, and they are these layers are implemented in software. Okay, so what are the layers that are implemented in software? They are session, presentation and application. And the bottom layers, like for example, the physical data link and network are a combination of hardware and software, where the physical layer is mostly hardware, and transport layer is a combination of hardware and software again. So this is transport layer. Individually, this layer itself is the transport layer. Okay, right. So these are the three groups. What are the three groups? So you can divide the 7 layers into 3 groups. The first one is network support layer, and the second one is user support layer, and then the transport layer. So I already explained you this, and also I explained you what is encapsulation. Encapsulation, as I told you, like the packet at level 7 is encapsulated into a packet at level 6. Okay, so you put another envelope. Okay, so the data that you got from the application layer, you're putting one more envelope on it and putting some stamp on it. Okay, so that process is called as encapsulation. So as I already told you, so this is called as encapsulation. The process is encapsulation. The entire packet, you are putting one more header to it. So this process is called as an encapsulation process. And decapsulation is the process on the other end, like where the headers are removed, then this process is called as decapsulation. This is I mean the layers and the functionalities in a nutshell. So I'll be giving you the detailed description of each and every layer, but just understand that this is the basic functionality of a particular layer. So here, this is the data unit, how a data unit at each and every layer is called as. So this is again a very, very important MCQs. What is the data unit at the network layer called as? The data unit at network layer is called as a packet. So this is again a very important MCQ. Okay, so fine. So what is the data unit at the transport layer called as? It is called as a segment. Okay, and what it is called at the data link layer. So the data unit at the data link layer is called as a frame. So this is very important. This terminology is very important. So what is the data unit in the application layer? It is called as a data presentation data and session also data. But at the transport layer, you call the data unit as the segment. And at the network layer, you call the data unit as a packet. And at the data link layer, you call that as a frame. And the physical layer, it is transmission of bits, okay, ones and zeros and all that. And what is the functionality of the application layer? So it is network process to application and presentation layer, data presentation and encryption. I'll tell you in detail. Just remember these points, that's it. And I'll ask you, like, what is the functionality of session layer? You should tell me this thing, okay? Like inter-host communication. And transport layer is end-to-end communication and reliability. Network layer is like, these are the responsibilities like path determinations and IP logical addressing. And data link layer, which is MAC, and LLC stands for logical link control. So these two things happen in the data link layer. And finally, in the physical layer, like the media, what is the medium in which you want to transfer the signal, and the binary transmission, all that is discussed in the physical layer. Okay, fine. So now let us look into each and every layer in detail and try to understand what happens. Say for example, so this is the sending device. Okay, node A is the sending device and node A is sending a message which is hi. Okay, so node A wants to send the message hi to the node B. Okay, so let us look into what will happen to this particular message and what and all happens in each and every layer. We'll be looking into that. So as I told you, at the sending side, the layers are accessed in the order from top to bottom. So first the application layer is accessed and then the presentation and session. So that's the reason I am discussing the layer 7 first. Okay, so I hope you understood that. Why I am discussing layer 7 first? Why I am discussing layer 7 first?
Layer accessing is from top to bottom at the sender device.
Yeah, at the sender device, the layer accessing is from top to bottom. Okay, so that's that means that layer 7 is accessed first, and then the data is transmitted, moved down in the layer like this. Okay, fine. So that's why I'm discussing layer 7 first. So what happens at the application layer? Okay, so application layer is a set of protocols. So you just need to understand that it is set of protocols. It does not do anything. It will just provide the protocols to you. The top layer, it is the top layer of the OSI. It is the top layer of the OSI model, the 7th layer, and it provides a set of interfaces for sending and receiving applications to gain access and to use network services to provide network services to the user. So that is the functionality of the application layer. What do the application layer do? It provides network services to the user. Okay, it provides network services to the user. Now let me tell you what are the network services. To actually connect to the internet, you need a web browser. Okay, so the web browser can be a Chrome. I'm giving you a practical example starting from the application layer from the sender side. If you listen to this carefully, you will be able to answer many questions and you will understand this OSI model very easily. So do follow this, what I'm telling you. So at the sender side, you need a web browser to communicate to the server or whatever. So what are the web browsers that are available? So the web browsers that are available are, you can use Chrome or Firefox or Internet Explorer or any of the web browsers you can use. And these web browsers need certain protocols to ensure that there is a communication from the device, from the particular device to the other devices. So the network layer provides those networking services protocols. Okay, so the network layer, the application layer, will provide these networking services to the browsers. Now, for example, the networking applications can be like Telnet, SNMP, and FTP, and DNS, HTTP, and HTTPS, and POP, Post Office Protocol 3, and all that. SNMP stands for Simple Network Management Protocol, and SMTP stands for Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, SMTP, and then you have FTP, which stands for File Transfer Protocol. DNS is Domain Name System, and then HTTP is, like we will be using this protocol to transfer the text and all that, and to establish the connection. So secure connection is established with HTTPS and all that. So we know, I hope you might have seen this HTTPS in your web browser URL space. Have you seen this HTTPS and all that? Have you seen that or not? Yes. Okay, so this is a protocol. Yes, this is a protocol which is used for web surfing. Okay, HTTP and HTTPS are the protocols which are used for web browsing or web surfing. Okay, so to do the web browsing, you require these two protocols. And say, for example, I want to transfer an email from one system to another system. I need this POP3 protocol, and also I need SMTP protocol to establish or send an email from one system to another system. And say, for example, I want to remotely access a file which is there in the other system, and then I need FTP protocol to do that. And if I want virtual terminal, I'll be using a terminal. Okay, so I'll be using Telnet, which is telecommunication network. So these are all the protocols that your application layer provides. It is just a bunch of protocols that application layer provides for giving networking services to the users. So what happens is your browser will be taking these protocols from the application layer and it will be using them. Okay, say for example, Telnet. Okay, so Telnet stands for telecommunication network. So the tel from the telecommunication and net from the network is taken, and in short, we'll call it as Telnet. Okay, so this Telnet is a network virtual terminal, and this network virtual terminal is a software version of the physical terminal. Okay, and so which will allow a user to log on to a remote host. So say I'm having a system which is in some other part of the geographical location, and I want to access that particular system. So Telnet will help you to do that. Okay, right. And another systems are like file transfer, access, and management. To actually FTP used for that. And this application will allow the users to access files in a remote host. Okay, so to establish connection to the system which is in the remote location, okay, access users to log on to the remote host, you will be using the telecommunication network, which is virtual terminal. And to access the files in the remote host, you will be using FTP protocol. And to actually forward and store the emails, you will be using the SMTP, which is Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, and all this. Okay, and to enable web surfing or web browsing, you will be using HTTP or HTTPS protocols. So all these protocols are provided in the application layer, and so the application layer will help your web browser work correctly depending on the functionalities. Okay, so application layer functionality. So all the functionalities are provided in terms of protocols, and for each and every specific networking service, a specific protocol is chosen. So that is the functionality or the services that the application layer provides. Is it clear, everyone? So application layer is responsible for providing services to the user. Okay, and this user needing to be a physical human being. Okay, so it can also serve a human being, or it can be a software, or it can be a network or anything. So application layer is responsible for providing services to the user, where the user can be a human, or it can be a software, or it can be a network. Okay, and it provides user interfaces and support for services such as like file transfer and sharing, database management, or distributed information services, or it can be remote accessing of a host or anything. All these are provided by the application layer. Okay, is it clear, Ma? Is it understood what is an application layer? Can I get one more confirmation from some other girl other than Bindu?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So I hope everybody understood. Okay. Now what happens is the data that is taken from the user. Okay. So by using these protocols, so I said like we are transferring hi, right? So this is a message that we want to transfer from the sender to the receiver. Okay. So this data is taken from the application layer, and now it enters into the presentation layer. So the data is now in the presentation layer with the specific headers that are added by the application layer. All that happens. I already shown you that encapsulation and decapsulation happens at each and every layer. So the application layer will transfer the data to the presentation layer. Now let us look into what happens at the presentation layer. So the presentation layer is responsible for three things, Andy. The first thing is like it is responsible for code formatting and translation, and the second one is encryption, and the third one is compression. Okay, now let me make you understand this code formatting and translation. So the data that I have given, I said HI, right, which is hi. This is a message. It can also contain characters, and it can also contain numbers. Okay, so it can be an alphanumerical text that I want to send from the sender to the receiver. So now what happens is there are encoding schemes everywhere. So you have encoding schemes which are used by the internet, and also which are used by the system itself. So here, say for example, I'm on a computer P1, and I want to send the message to computer P2. Like we are saying, I want to send this hi message from device A to device B. Now at device A, like the encoding scheme. So on this device, the encoding scheme can be different. Okay, so the encoding scheme is like how I want to encode. Say for example, you have ASCII encoding schemes and all that, right? So you have different encoding schemes. What are the various encoding schemes that are available, Andy? So HTML encoding scheme is there, URL encoding is there, ASCII is there, Unicode encoding is there, then you have base 64 encoding is there, hexadecimal encoding is there, UTF-8 1632 is there. So all these are the encoding schemes that are available, and maybe this particular system that I'm talking about, this particular system that I'm on is having a different encoding scheme. Say for example, it is using ASCII encoding scheme to convert the data into some binary format. Okay, so ASCII or encoding schemes are used to convert the characters or the letters into the binary format, because for example 65A, it has got a number, and this number is converted into some binary format which is used for converting. Okay, so conversion is done in bits. So you need some conversion mechanism to convert the characters and letters into some bit format. So that is done by using ASCII, which is American Standard Code for Information Interchange. Okay, so this ASCII, for example, the encoding scheme of the system A is ASCII. And the encoding scheme of this device B is, say, for example, HTML encoding, or it is some base 64 encoding. Now there should be compatibility, right, between these two things. Okay, you cannot because this is encoding in ASCII and this is decoding, this scheme on this device is something else. So you need some common encoding schemes over here. So the common encoding scheme, if you just Google and see what is the common encoding scheme that internet uses today. So internet uses UTF-8 as the common encoding scheme across transmissions. Okay, so what is UTF? UTF-U stands for Unicode. You might have heard it. I have discussed this Unicode when I was teaching you object-oriented programming. So Unicode transformation format, UTF stands for that, Unicode transformation format, which is of 8 bits. You do have other versions of UTF, which is 8, 16, and 32, but internet uses most commonly this UTF-8 encoding scheme. So now what happens, the message now is transmitted is code formatting, okay, or translation. You do also call it as translation. So it gets translated into, or it gets converted into the binary format by using the common encoding scheme, okay. So the common encoding scheme is UTF-8. So the message is converted into UTF and all that, and which is transmitted, and here again it receives the Unicode UTF-8, and then it converts into its internal conversion format, and it is given to the user. So so during transmission it needs an common encoding scheme. So that is what is called as translation. Okay, the translation is nothing but converting the character strings and numbers and so on into a format. So the information must be exchanged in the bit streams, right, during the transmission. And because different computers use different encoding systems, now the transmission presentation layer is responsible for converting it into the common encoding schemes, because if they are using different encoding schemes, then the interoperability between the systems will not be established. So the presentation layer changes the information from the sender dependent format into a common format, and the presentation layer at the receiving machine changes the common format into the receiver dependent format. Okay, so that is one of the responsibilities of the presentation layer. Is it clear what is translation, everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, next comes the encryption. Okay, so what is encryption? Encryption is changing of the data into some other format so that somebody in the middle do not understand it. Okay, say for example, alphabet A do have 1, right? I'm giving a coding for the letters. Okay, B is 2, and for C I'm giving 3, and for D I'm giving 4. So I'm giving some code over here for the letters. E I'm giving 5 and all that. Okay. So I'm giving some coding over here. It needn't to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and all that, where Z represents 26. It needn't to be like this. Okay. It can be any of the coding schemes. You can take 2 and then you can say this is 4, and you can make it a multiple of 2 and all that. So even that can be a coding mechanism. Now, why you are using this coding mechanism is so that the person in the middle, only you and the other person know it. Say I'm having a source A and the destination B. So source and the destination are agreeing upon these codes, and only these two persons know this. Nobody else know this particular coding scheme. Okay, say for example, I want to send Z, C, B to the from the source to the destination. Now what I'm doing is, now I'm encrypting this particular text. How I'm encrypting it? I'm having certain scheme over here. It needn't be the same scheme. It can be any other scheme. So for Z, I have 26, right? So I am putting 26, and for C, I have a code which is 3, and for B, I'm having a code which is 2. Now what I'll do is, so this process of converting it into another format is called as encryption. Okay. Now what I'm doing is, so this encrypted data I'll be transferring between A and B. So the data that is transmitted between A and B is 2632. Okay. Now upon receiving over here, since A and B both know that the text is encrypted, so now what happens is B will decrypt it. Okay, so B will decrypt it because it also knows the process of encryption. It also know like how it has encrypted it. So what it will do is it will convert it into the text. Okay, so it will say Z, C, and B and all that. It will have its own ways of encryption and decryption. There are very big algorithms that are involved in encryption and decryption. The purpose of encryption is to maintain integrity of the data, meaning that, for example, if I'm transferring the original data, okay, so say this is the military base. So this is one military base and this is another military base, and they both are exchanging some information regarding attacking some other country. Okay, so this is military base 1 and this is military base 2, and they're exchanging very important information, and that information is in the original text, like attack some base and all that. So what happens in the middle, some intruder can actually extract the data, and the intruder can know like what is the message exchanged between A and B. So to ensure the integrity of the data, generally the encryption and decryption happens over here, so that even if the middle person sees it, since he do not know the code, okay, he cannot interpret this particular data. He will be getting 2632, but he will not be knowing how to actually decrypt it, because the encryption and decryption algorithms are with A and B only, nobody else. Nobody knows the encryption mechanism and decryption mechanism. Okay, the algorithm is known only with A and B, only the source and the destination. So whoever sees in the middle, they won't be able to understand what this 2632 represents. Okay, so this process is called as encryption, and the presentation layer will do this encryption to maintain the integrity of the data. Is it clear? Is it clear what is encryption? Okay. Now the third responsibility of the presentation layer is compression. So the data that is coming from the application layer, okay, so say for example, especially if it is an audio and video data that need to be transmitted from the source to the destination, the more the size of the data, the transmission will slow down. Okay, so you will be having difficulty in viewing the video in a faster rate. The transmission will slow down. Say for example, I'm having 1 MB of data that is transmitted, and I'm having 10 MB of data that is transmitted. So which goes from the source to the destination faster? So I have two sizes over here. One is 100 MB and the other one is 10 MB.
10 MB data.
10 MB data will move fast because it's small in size, so automatically it moves fast. So the transmission rate will be high because it is small in size. So the presentation layer will make sure that the data is compressed. Okay, so once the data from the application layer is reached to the presentation layer will compress the data. Okay, compression means that reducing the size of the file. So say for example, I have received 100 MB of file from the application layer. The presentation layer will try to compress it like maybe to 50 MB or 40 MB based on the compression algorithms. So there are many data compression algorithms, and the presentation layer will use any one of the compression algorithms to actually compress the data. You have this Huffman coding algorithm and all that, which is actually used for compression of the data. And there are two kinds of compressions that are possible in the presentation layer. The first one is the lossy compression. So in the lossy compression, some data will be lost, and in the lossless compression, there won't be any loss of the data. So based on the type of the file and how it needs to be sent, it will actually choose whether to pick the lossy compression or lossless compression. Okay, fine. So this is all about the presentation layer, and for encrypting the data, it will be using certain protocols, like there are protocols like SSL, which are used for compression by the presentation layer. SSL stands for secure socket layer, wherein it will encrypt the data to maintain the integrity of the data to be transmitted. So these are all the things that will happen at the presentation layer. So I hope everybody understood what is presentation layer.
Ma'am, what is the difference between code formatting and encryption, ma'am?
Code formatting is wherein you will convert the data into binary format. You will convert the data into the binary format. Okay, so say you're having A, you will convert it into, looking at the ASCII table or looking at the Unicode table, you will convert it into the binary bits, stream of bits, like 110, whatever, you will be converting it like this. Encryption is where you will be having an algorithm, and you will be, based on the algorithm, you will change the text to another text which cannot be understood. Only you and the other person will be able to understand that text. Nobody in the middle will understand, because you yourself know the algorithm. Say for example, I am saying I am representing A as Z. I am saying I'll represent A as Z. I'll represent B as Y. This can be another encryption algorithm. So I'm saying I'll represent A as Z and I'll represent B as Y. So this is what I'm telling to the receiver also. So whenever I have A in the text, I'll replace that A as Z. So the person in the middle do not know that, right? Only the receiver will know, because I'll tell the receiver that in place of A, I'm replacing it with Z. So the person in the middle, even if he gets the data, he will not be able to interpret it. Interpreting means that understand the data. So say you and I are communicating, Bindu. So I want to send some data to you. So I don't want somebody in the middle to understand what we are communicating. So I'll say, I'll send some secret message to you saying that whenever there is A, I'm replacing A with Z, and some coding scheme I'm giving you. Okay, so this is my algorithm. So I am framing some scheme here so that only you and me can, I will encrypt and send the data to you, and you will be able to decrypt it based on the algorithm that we agreed upon. So that is the difference between encryption and code formatting or translation. Translation is translating based on the encoding formats. So the encoding formats are ASCII formats. So those are fixed. Everybody knows that encoding formats. So for in your ASCII, what is capital A? In ASCII, what is capital A? Capital A is what? Capital A's code in ASCII is what?
97.
Capital A is 97. It is 65. Capital A is 65. So this coding scheme everybody know. But I telling you that I am representing capital A with the Z, only you and me know. Did you understand the difference?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, right. So can I get some other confirmations from the class that whether the application and presentation layer is clear or not?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, two more confirmations. Let me get two more confirmations.
Clear, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Clear. Okay, right. So now let us move on to the next layer. So the data from the application layer have moved to the presentation layer, and from the presentation layer, now the data is in the session layer. Apart from the headers that the session layers and the presentation layers and the application layers add, that and all I'm not telling you, because I already told you, like at each and every layer, encapsulation and decapsulation happens. Now coming to the session layer, so which is a layer below the presentation layer, and this session layer will provide services to the presentation layer. Okay, so the session layer will provide services to the presentation layer. Now what happens at the session layer, and what is the session layer? Let us look into that. So this is the fifth layer of your OSI. So we have completed the application and presentation layer, and now the data has now moved down to the session layer. So the session layer is a dialogue controller. Okay, so what is a dialogue? Okay, so if you want to imagine your telecommunication, you made a phone call. Okay, so you made a phone call, and before talking to the other person, what happened? There is a connection established between you and the other person, right? So say I have called up Lasya, okay, and so before I can make a conversation with Lasya, what happens? There is a session established between my phone and the Lasya's phone, right? So there is a connection established. After the connection successfully established only, we can exchange the dialogue. I can talk to her and she can talk to me. And the communication can be in half duplex or it can be full duplex. Okay, the communication can exchange between we both. And after we finished talking, okay, so talking is nothing but dialogue over here. So after I finish talking, what happens? The connection is terminated. So all this is taken care by the session layer. So the session layer is called as the dialogue controller, meaning that it is responsible for establishing connection between the two hosts. And then after exchange of the data, the connection is terminated. So the session layer will do that. So it is responsible for dialogue control and synchronization. So this layer establishes maintenance and synchronizes sessions between two communicating hosts. Okay, so there are two hosts, like say device A and device B. So when they want to communicate, it creates a virtual circuit over here. And then the communication is established, the coordinates communicate between systems, and then after the communication happens, and this communication can be half duplex or it can be duplex, which is full duplex, or and after the exchange of the dialogue, the communication will come to an end. Okay, so the communication is terminated. So this is what will happen at the session layer. So now let us look into the responsibilities of the session layer in detail. Okay, so this is the overall description of what happens at the session layer. Now let us look into the specific responsibilities that happens at the session layer. So as I told you that the session layer is responsible for dialogue control and synchronization. Okay, so the first one is dialogue control. I explained to you what is dialogue control. So the dialogue control is that two systems enter into a dialogue, meaning communication. Okay, and this communication can be in half duplex or full duplex mode. That is half duplex means that it is one-way communication at a time. Okay, so two-way communication is possible, but only one can communicate at a time. So that is half duplex. Full duplex is that both can communicate at the same time. So that kind of communication is called as the dialogue control. So this is the first responsibility of the session layer. Coming to the second responsibility of the session layer, which is synchronization. Let me give you an example what is meant by synchronization. So the session layer allows a process to add checkpoints or synchronization points. Okay, so where are the synchronization points added can be your MCQ. So the synchronization points are added in the session layer to allow a process to communicate properly. So this can be one of your MCQ. Say for example that there is a system which is sending a file with 1000 pages to the other device. So here we are naming the devices are as A and B. So device A is sending 1000 pages to device B. Okay, so let us assume it that way. Now what happens is we are adding a checkpoints or synchronization points after sending 100 pages. Okay, so there can be 10 packets over here. I said 1000 pages. So each and every packet or each and every checksum is added after 100 pages, meaning that there can be 10 checkpoints over here. So after the 10 pages are transmitted from the device A to device B, what happens is device A will wait for acknowledgement from device B. Okay, so it will after B receives this particular 100 pages, B will acknowledge independently to this particular A, saying that I received this 100 pages. And upon receiving this particular acknowledgement, what will happen is it will send the next 100 pages. Now what will happen is, so here there are 10 units, right? Say the first 100 pages are first unit 1 and the second 100 pages are unit 2 and so on. So I have 10 units over here. And say for example, the third unit, there was a difficulty in transmitting. Okay, so something happened, some network issue arose or something, and this third packet was not able to deliver to the destination. So now what will happen is now A device will send only this unit 3 because it got confirmation that unit 1 and unit 2 and say for example unit 4 and unit 5 and rest, for everything it got an acknowledgement back from the device B, but only for unit 3. it did not get any acknowledgement. The unit 3 is the packet from 200 pages from 201 to 300, right? So this is the unit 3 packet which is having the pages from 201 to 300. So what the source will do is, since it did not receive any acknowledgement from for this particular unit 3 of the transmission, so it will send this unit 3 packet only rather than sending the other packets. Okay, so that is the use of the checkpoints or the synchronization points. If there were no checkpoints or synchronization points, what would have happened is A will not know like what are the packets that are sent and what are the pages that are sent and what are the pages that were not sent. So what it would, if there were no checkpoints, like A would now send all the 1000 pages again. So which will again result in wastage of your bandwidth and sending all the pages, wherein B have received certain pages. But since it did not know, it understands that the pages are not sent. So it will retransmit all the pages again. So which will again be a problem. So the session layer will do this. Okay, so adding checkpoints and synchronization points. So what are the responsibilities of the session layer? The responsibilities of the session layer is dialog control and synchronization, adding checkpoints and synchronization points to the message that was received from the presentation layer. So that is regarding the session layer. In tomorrow's class, I'll continue with the rest of the layers. So the application, presentation and session layer is over. So please go through the entire concept again and re-establish your understanding.